was certainly aware of spiders. I didn't find them to be frightening, but I didn't find a deep connection with them. I've had some teachings regarding their web and understanding that when we are feeling stuck in life, it's an opportunity for us to actually take a look around and see where we have spun our own trap. I remember walking there early on the first time I went to this park, and I couldn't quite remember. There was something near the end that I wanted to see. So as we're walking down the path, we start to notice all of these spider webs. Again, it's late summer, early fall. We're the first ones here in the park. So the pathways are covered in spider webs. Are you a psychedelic facilitator or a plant medicine ceremonialist? If you are and you're ready to awaken your unique medicine, I'm offering a free upcoming masterclass for mastery and magic in sacred ceremonies. This class will provide you with tools, insight, and a deep experiential journey that can transform your approach to facilitation, empowering you to lead with authenticity, with confidence, and with a deeper connection to spirit. This is for the psychedelic practitioner who knows there's more than the training you've received so far, that carrying the medicine is a sacred calling and is ready to offer your unique medicine, the specific codes that only you carry, with authenticity and the boldness that your soul craves. This is an hour and a half masterclass. We're going to have a part mind element teaching you really specific information around ceremony design and part experiential element journeying into your sacred gifts. Be sure to follow the links or visit spiritbirdmedicine.com and follow the links for Spirit Led to get more information on this upcoming masterclass and opportunities for plant medicine practitioners. Welcome. This is Leading with Spirit, the show that gives you an in-depth look at topics like what it takes to navigate your spiritual journey, how to heal yourself and grow your spiritual gifts, and balanced practices to expand your business and your spiritual leadership. I'm your host, Spirit Bird, shamanic teacher, healer, and author, here to guide you on your journey to becoming your most potent spiritual leader. Hello and welcome back to Leading with Spirit. I'm your host, Spirit Bird Holton, and buckle up. Today, I'm going to be taking you on a journey of spider medicine. Let me dive right in. Spider medicine has been a powerful teacher for me over the last 3 months. I can't say that I was deeply connected to spider medicine before it all began late summer, early fall of 2024. I was certainly aware of spiders. I didn't find them to be frightening, but I didn't find a deep connection with them. I've had some teachings regarding their web and understanding that when we're feeling stuck in life, it's an opportunity for us to actually take a look around and see where we have spun our own trap. And when we do that, we can understand walking to the other side of that trap. We end up walking into a web of our own design. So it's really like these two sides of the same coin. And when you're in the center, you can flip very quickly back and forth from one to the other based on what suits you at that moment. Or at least remembering that at any point you can flip back to the web of creation instead of being trapped in a web of your own making. So let me start the journey with where the power of the medicine really began. Late summer, early fall, I met a friend of mine to take a walk in a local park that we both really enjoyed. It was our first time actually meeting at that park together to walk there. And we walked along the stream. The park has a few different hills. It's got different elevation. There's some creeks and waterfalls that flow through, and it's got really dense woods. So we're walking along one of the creeks, along the tall stone walls that almost seem like they were human made. And we noticed this patch of flowers. And among the flowers, there are a lot of bugs, like more than usual, enough to get our attention to be like, wow, this is quite a lot happening here. My friend has a moment, calls in her dragonfly friends, and they show up for her. We have a little smile and we continue walking. And we decide to take a right down a path that I knew because I wanted to see what was at the end. I remember walking there early on the first time I went to this park, and I couldn't quite remember. There was something near the end that I wanted to see. And so as we're walking down the path, we start to notice all of these spider webs. Again, it's late summer, early fall. We're the first ones here in the park. So the pathways are covered in spider webs. There haven't been enough people to walk through to clear them, to take them down, to destroy them in the process. So we're actually taking it really slowly and noticing. And as we step through or underneath or around each web, we suddenly become aware that we're actually making our way through a portal and that the spiders themselves are teaching us specifically about portals. So we continue to walk. One of my friends teaching, she's tall and often wears a hat, and she kept almost running into the spider webs. I had to pause her for a few times and mention to look up. And so she was getting the lesson of like, of course, remember to look up. And to our surprise, we were also finding spider webs that were actually perpendicular to us, like on the path. It was really incredible. You couldn't even see where the webs were connected to. So we had webs that were both facing directly at us and webs that were basically sideways. And that was such a clear seeing to me as well. Like, of course, when I think of walking through a portal, when I think of exploring portals, I always just imagine this door, this opening directly in front of me. And I forgot that portals are also sideways and tiny and scattered around. And so you can actually access portals in different corners of your awareness at any given time. So we continue to walk further and further and further down the portal. We're reaching out to the plants that seem to be speaking to us. We have a few encounters with some different trees. We're getting information from the trees that feels helpful or relevant. We're getting stories from the rocks about what this place once was. We're starting to put this puzzle together. And long story short, as we begin to walk back, it was like you could feel the portal slowly closing behind us. At this point now, other people were on the path walking towards us. They were walking right into the spider webs, completely unaware of what was right there in front of them. And as we get towards the end of the path, this portal finally drops us off to ancient Egypt. And so we tap into that for a second. Suddenly, in our awareness, we are attuned to Egypt. We're seeing some pyramids. We're seeing some iconography. We're following that. We see steps. Both of us separately start walking down the steps, and that takes us through another portal to Lumeria. Now we're in an underwater sanctuary, taking a moment to receive teachings from our dolphin friends. And as we continue walking back to where the trail intersects the main trail, as soon as we take a foot back onto the main trail, we can feel the portal close. We can feel the past life close. And just like that, we're back from where we started. It's not over yet. As we continue to walk back down this main path towards the where our cars are parked, we notice that those bugs again. Not only are there a lot of bugs in this same place still, we notice that there's lots of flies and dragonflies and bees and butterflies that keep landing on the path. It was quite distinct. It was unusual looking to see so many bugs specifically landing on the blacktop in this specific spot. As we tune into this, we also notice that both of our hands are tingling. And so we continue to follow it. We go over to where the bugs are and we listen for a moment and we realize, I think we're on top of a ley line. We're definitely on top of some kind of a potent vibrational line that runs through the earth, that is running underneath us, that the bugs showed us to, that the spiders initiated for us. It doesn't take long for us to be on the ground, and it doesn't take long after being on the ground that we both find ourselves belly down, arms out, legs out, face first on this concrete path, quiet, just soaking up the vibration of this ley line that's running through, this vibrational recharge that's activating our body. And after maybe 5 or 7 minutes of quiet, eventually we finally just erupt in pure laughter. That vibrational healing changed me and opened the door for a bigger portal that I would be going through over the next few months. A portal around changing how I view others and how I view myself. A portal helping me dismantle any places where I do have some hierarchy, one way or the other, remaining. A portal helping to activate me and bring me back to my truth, staying true to my true self, and eventually continuing to understand the teachings that spider medicine is weaving through my life and that I am weaving through my teachings as well. So I'll share a little bit more 3D stuff about what this portal entailed. At this point, I have just finished enrolling shaman school for possibly one last time. I may be bringing it back towards the end of 2025, but no sooner than that. So that was kind of a big decision for me, but I was really clear I wanted to create space. I was really ready to, I've been working with a lot of plant medicine practitioners, and I was ready to create a program that was specifically for them, specifically for psychedelic facilitators, and specifically to help them really step into their power, really own their unique gifts and bring them forward in a unique kind of ceremony that is not copying someone else, that is not mimicking the shaman that they learned from, and where they're not holding any part of themselves back, when they're really moving with the boldness that their soul is craving. So this program is called Spirit Led, and I'd been getting downloads throughout the summer and found myself on the other side of filling shaman school, really ready to step into that space to feel, okay, what is this that wants to happen? What is this that wants to emerge? What are the codes that are coming through? And at the same time, I was finding myself with a few opportunities in front of me. I had one opportunity to go to a retreat in Colorado. I was moderately excited about it. Well, it was a mix. It was partially felt like an obligation, like, well, it was a gifted retreat, so I guess I should go. But I was, looking forward to it. I didn't think of it like a chore. So I had that on the horizon. I didn't really know what that would bring, but I was ready to find out. And I also had just recently made the decision. A friend of mine, she's actually been on the show, Kara Griffin. Her episode is about art and yoga, and she was holding a retreat on Maui that was a combination of yoga retreat and learning how to surf. And I couldn't say no to the opportunity to go visit with her. Why not learn how to surf and have some time for myself? I had always wanted to get to the Hawaiian Islands, especially when I was living in Alaska, and it never happened. And even though it was a little stretch on my budget, especially for something that felt like pure fun, it wasn't for business, it wasn't for personal development, it was just for me. I just felt such a clear yes, I had to sign up. So as I'm preparing for these 2 trips, suddenly I happened to see a third adventure pop up for me. It was an experience from Mind Valley. Had never done any work with Mind Valley before. And they were hosting an event called A Fest. I guess they've been hosting this for a while. Again, I don't really follow the work that they'd been doing, but it really jumped out to me. And it turns out that this particular event was different than the way they've done it before. And they were testing having a smaller event at a higher ticket price, um, completely renting out an entire resort as opposed to just hosting it at a hotel or a resort and having it mixed with other people. And same thing. I woke up, I happened to see a little video for it. It really didn't give any information about it, but I just felt this clear, energetic yes. And there was a moment there where I was like, well, I think the investment in this might be kind of high. I started to go into my mind. I started to debate for a moment. And I knew that you had to apply to get a ticket to this event. So I finally was like, you know what? Let me not get too far ahead of myself. Let me go ahead and apply. And then if I get in, then I can start thinking about whether or not I really want to go and the investment and that kind of thing. Um, long, Not long after that, I got a reply. I was accepted. And not only was I accepted, but they have an upsell where you basically can bring a friend and they don't have to apply, and you both get a slightly discounted ticket. So I brought it to my partner and I said, hey, heads up. I know I don't really need your permission, but I saw this event. It's in Spain. It's quite an investment. It's coming up really soon, and it's right in the middle of two other big travel plans that I have. Um, but it feels really important to me that I go. And also, do you want to come? So my interest and my excitement actually initiated a whole experience for us as well that gave my partner an opportunity to feel into, was he feeling called here? Feeling into, he had his own process around this, and eventually came back and said yes. So maybe not even a month or 6 weeks before the event was going to happen, we went ahead and signed up. Again, it was a very big investment for both of us. The experience was absolutely incredible. The hotel was a luxury, environmentally conscious hotel. And I would say just from start to finish, we had a great time. We met a lot of really wonderful people. Probably my favorite part of the entire experience was I think there were maybe 150 people, and of those 150 people, maybe there were a dozen of us from the US. So we were suddenly plugged into this global connection of really fascinating, interesting people. There's a whole lot more to say about my experience with that event and some of the things that came out of it that I know will be beautiful and fruitful in the future. But right now, I just want to focus on where the spider medicine comes in. So, first of all, what I'm starting to realize with spider medicine is there's the medicine of the spider itself and what it does, and then there's also the medicine of the web. And so I'm slowly starting to realize that I feel like I'm tapping into the actual web when I am feeling into an offering, a calling, when I'm feeling into a portal or a transformation that wants to happen. It's almost as if my body can feel the connection points with the people that are important or vital for that experience. It's like the actual web of people who are energetically aligned and the actual web of people who have cultivated enough inner awareness to be able to feel the signal from the other side of the web, maybe even on the other side of the globe. So I find myself here meeting some really interesting people, meeting some really beautiful people. And it's so interesting because before I went, I was aware because of the investment and because of some of the information around the event that, I'm going to be showing up with other people that are serious. That was part of the draw for me, is like the excitement of kind of up-leveling a large group of people that I would be around, people that are both conscious, that are constantly working on themselves, and are showing up in a big way in the world. And so I didn't realize that because of that, all of the stories that I had around what might happen or what they might be like. And I kind of had this little wobble around, like, oh, I guess I need to get like nicer clothes. I don't need to change who I am. I just need to like touch myself up a little bit and show up fully, show up in the fullness that I am. So I started to journey with that. I was a little nervous. I thought because of the nature of the event that there would be like a lot of people around there that were a lot like me. Now, I know I'm different and unique in my own way, but I, again, just assumed that almost everybody would be a spiritual coach. And so I was kind of preparing myself for that and really tuning into like what I would really want to be known for in that crowd. I have a lot of different gifts, but I really wanted to tune into like what felt most true and most aligned for me right now. And what came out of that was, of course, the training work that I'm offering through Spirit Led for plant medicine practitioners. And then also a particular kind of private one-on-one experience that I'm offering right now that is called Messages from the Spirit Realm, that's specific for people who are feeling like they're hearing a message from the spirit realm and can't quite get the message. So it's a complete like up level on all of the areas of your life, specifically guided by the messages that are coming through. And again, for me, I was clear for myself that that specific intention was to help people who are hearing the call but not fully hearing the information unwind any blocks, distortions, old patterns they have that are actually keeping them from clearly hearing the messages and more specifically stepping forward with the information that they're getting. So kind of similar to the emphasis of spirit led, except for spirit led is a little bit more for facilitators, and we also focus on like actually creating a ceremony. So that being said, I was really clear about what that was going to be. That was helpful for me. To my surprise, what happened when I got there is although there were other psychedelic facilitators and although there were other spiritual coaches, without having to effort at all, I realized how unique and different I truly am from the rest of the group. I'm suddenly finding myself in situations between the trip in Colorado and now Spain where I imagine that everybody's like me. And maybe that says a little bit of something about my ego. But, approaching it with this like almost like edge, like, ooh, like how do I, stand out or differentiate myself or make myself known, only to find out the reminder that actually I already stand out and I'm already so different than the average person. And I kind of forgot that. I've spent so much time in these high level spiritual groups with really attuned people that are beautiful and challenging. That I forgot that it's like 1% of the population within spirituality that even like operates at that level. And so it turns out it was actually really easy. And then in the process, I was also finding myself around other high level people, some that I looked up to, some that I might have been intimidated by, some that I definitely would have projected as being more quote unquote successful than me. And realizing that the only difference between me and them was the story that I created about them. The only difference was the belief that I had that they would want me to be different in order to approach them. And so here I am noticing this trap that I had woven for myself around how I see other people. And this begins the journey of moving to the other side of the web. So, as I begin to journey to the other side of the web, as the spider medicine continues to move through my system, I am, without efforting, finding myself kind of one step beside world leaders. Something may or may not actually come from that interaction. I don't think it matters. That wasn't the point. It would be incredible if it does, but the point was for me to actually see myself as belonging there. And the only thing that had to change for me to do that was to drop the story that I didn't belong. So I can feel myself really spreading my wings, spreading my web, showing up confidently with this new seeing, realizing, holy shit, like the teachings that I have are powerful. I found myself in many conversations, again, that I would normally experience as that I felt are commonplace, but other people were experiencing as incredibly advanced. I'm finding myself talking to other plant medicine practitioners and dropping what I view as really simple kind of starter information and blowing their minds. And again, I don't feel like I'm doing any of this intentionally. I'm just being myself and speaking freely and not backing away from what I view as the truth. And all of this stuff starts to happen. So I have my trip from Spain. I get back home. I'm excited for the connections that I just made. And then all of a sudden, something happens with my Instagram. I'm not sure what. They usually don't tell you. And in the process, it takes down all of my social media. Gone, completely gone. And I think I maybe freaked out for about 20 minutes. And then I just let it go. I realized I had to chuckle a little bit. Part of me understood that I might have manifested this. I had so much worry about what would happen if that happened, that I think I partially created that situation. But also, I was intentionally stepping back from overworking and overdoing things and intentionally stepping into this place. I had this mantra for months that less is more. And in a way, I feel like spirit actually took that away from me because I didn't need it and I was making more busy work for myself than I needed. Now, that's not to say it's not a great tool or that you should leave social media. It was just for where I was, it was the right place, right time for me. I had already moved through my blocks or my avoidance of using it. I had kind of mastered some of the uses of it, and now it was time. Well, now the seeing that I was getting was it was time for me to step more forward because initially for me, sharing who I am and inviting people and sharing my teachings online was edgy for me. It felt like really stepping out and being seen. But eventually, as I got more and more comfortable with it, I started to move around to the other side of the circle. And it turns out that in a way, I was hiding just a little bit, that all of my interactions could be digital, that they could be in mass amounts instead of these direct one-on-one conversations. And when Spirit pulled social media away from me, and I still have like access to a few things, um, it gave me no choice but to reach out to people directly. So again, alongside these teachings that I had just discovered through saying yes to a few events that helped launch me through this portal, now my world was opening up to actually seeing people that I might normally like follow for a little while and like approach slowly, just digging out their phone number and calling them, just asking a mutual friend to introduce us, noticing that point, feeling the connection on the web and just going towards it, not overthinking it. If it's a yes, great. If it's a no, great. That's not the point. The point is to follow that instinct, to follow the nudge that I'm getting from the web and the signal that there's a match here. So that's happening. It's becoming quite simple. Good things are starting to come together from it. And I show up in Hawaii for this retreat. For me, that's just fun. And I have this really, really short teaching that is turns into a longer teaching later on, where one of the other participants does energy healing work and actually shared directly with me that she was testing the edges of like just being open about that and sharing that. And one of her fears being being around somebody that she viewed as being, more forward facing, or I wouldn't say necessarily more developed, but that she might admire or look up to. And she had shared like what a great experience to be around me because she just didn't feel that way. She didn't feel like she needed to be shy. She didn't feel like she needed to be competitive. She didn't feel like I was going to look down on her because she was beginning. So that was a really great reflection for me to receive. Obviously, I don't feel that way. I wouldn't have looked down on her, but I'm so glad that she could receive me that way. So moving to this other side of the web, let me feel here. Things are starting to move, and I then go through these three big trips. I get back home, I take some time. We have a few ceremonies. I'm teaching shaman school. Pieces are coming together for spirit led. I'm channeling the information for it. This is like coming in really clear. I'm really aware of who it's for now. And and then I get an invitation to ceremony held by a friend of mine. And I say yes. It feels right on time. I was ready to do some journeying for myself. I was actually feeling like, wow, this whole year, when I think back on a year ago in the start of the year to what happened right now, so much has happened. Like, I can't even believe, like, I remember I was in Alaska earlier this year, not to mention just the last 3 months. And I got engaged, and we had like multiple ceremonies throughout the year. I launched a new offer. I enrolled a new thing. I mean, just like so much had happened. And I had lost my grandfather, and I just wanted some time for myself to just sort of process and slow the fuck down. So I get there and I kind of check in. At this point, I'm really conscious of the way spider medicine has been working through me. And I share what my intentions are for there to really slow down and just like process like what's been happening, let myself feel it, and maybe start to tune into what's next, not from like a push, not from like, oh, I need to go out and grasp, but I'm like, okay, things have started to change. What's on the horizon now? And partway through ceremony, we start to drop in, and I remember about spider medicine. And I'm kind of like in my own little world at this point. There's stuff going on around me. Part of me wants to participate because I can't help it. It's, and it's part of it's little slightly distracting. So it feels like, I kind of get into my head a little bit about it and about like what other people will think if I'm not participating. But it's like, that's not what I came here for. I came here specifically for me and to be still and to process some things. And so as I'm laying there on my side, just really trying to drop into myself, I suddenly remember spider medicine. I'm like, oh yeah, spider medicine. And then I find it. I find it. It's tucked in the very corner of my awareness, kind of on the lower left side. And it's almost like this little section of space. It's like this little poof portal that appears out of nowhere, and you can see blue stars. And in it, there's a web, or maybe multiple webs, and a couple of small black spiders. And it is the divine portal for spider medicine. It is the cosmic spider. Um, and I just remember like being so delighted to find this little tiny pocket where it lived and get to touch and feel that energy for a second. And then things started to get really sticky. And I start to realize this gap between me and other people. And so, as I'm thinking about my interactions with other people, and as I'm actually interacting with other people, what's happening when we get into this gap gets really sticky. And I'm noticing these reflections from others of when they either have wanted my approval, or that they do want my approval, or that they look up to me or find me to be intimidating. And I'm like, dang, well, I don't want that. I'm actually starting to realize, holy shit, that's what I've been doing to other people for a really long time. And it turns out, even though I didn't mean anything by it, it actually feels really shitty to be viewed that way. And so it was such a powerful teaching for me on when I did put somebody on a pedestal, when I did doubt myself, when I viewed someone else as being more powerful or more clear or more successful than me, it was actually hurtful to them. That I believed that they couldn't be approached was hurtful to them. That I believed that there needed to be space, that there needed to be separation, that they wouldn't want to be bothered by me was hurtful to them. And I was starting to feel all of the pain that I have experienced from receiving that from other people too. And for a second, I started to go into the sticky place of like, is this me? Am I doing something? Am I causing people to doubt themselves? Am I putting myself on a pedestal? Am I the hierarchy? And I realized, no, it's not me. This one is not me. This is the same thing I was doing to other people. This is other people in their own doubt, in their own swirl, in their own stickiness. And so I realize one of the things that I've been conditioned to do is to try to make it better for them. When I'm holding my truth, when I'm holding my strength, when I'm holding my power, when their wobble might show up in that, I have been conditioned to try to make it better for them, either to give them words of encouragement, in an attempt to have them feel like they are, higher up, or diminishing myself in some way, or trying to soften the communication, or trying to give like multiple options instead of me just saying what clearly is what I see or what I think, saying, well, I see this, but it might be this, it might be this, it might be this. And I realize, holy shit, that's a distortion that I'm doing. That is some sticky shit. That is um, from a very wounded place, trying to make it better for you. And so I basically spent the bulk of the evening, thank you, spider medicine, into releasing that habit and that pattern and retraining myself what it's like to hold myself in stillness versus changing to try to soften or make things better for other people. I realize that's their job. I can help if they want help. That's very different than me leaving my own energy and going into their energy to try to tend things for them. And so I'm calling it back. And I'm noticing myself thinking what they might be feeling and pulling myself back again and realizing that really loving myself is letting myself be where I am and feel what I feel and not trying to make it better for other people. And so I receive this teaching from spider medicine. I receive the other side of the web. Now I am on the other side of what I experienced just a month before, of being that person that put other people on the pedestal. And I'm really starting to drop into my power and understanding what it is and how to use it, and less fear on actually using it. And I realize I'm tuned into the web. And so I'm leaning into that even more with direct conversations, with direct invitations. If you're listening to this and you're feeling a little tap, you're probably tuned into the web too. And it might be a tap because you needed some spider medicine. It might be a tap because you carry spider medicine already. It might be a tap because you needed a teaching on how harmful your lack of confidence can actually be and feel for other people. Or you might be getting a tap because you're actually meant to join spirit led and spread your wings and step forward in your unique medicine, or maybe some other reason. I'm not sure. So, last but not least, I finally dropped to where I'll end the story for now. I um, I had one more ceremony planned. This was an opportunity for me to really drop in. I needed to do some research and I wanted to do a little exploring for myself right before ceremony. As happens with ceremony, I start to get kind of anxious. I start to get kind of panicky about some things. I'm really concerned that the experience that I'm going into, that I know I need to have and that I was feeling, would be a nuisance or a disturbance for the other people that were journeying. Obviously, I know that's part of how medicine works. And also, here I was again being worried about it, knowing I didn't need to worry about it, but knowing I still was. And as I drop into the medicine and I'm getting all these teachings, the main teaching that came through, I started to see, was fear of my own power. And it made a connection with the ceremony I was at before, where my friend and the facilitator actually kind of pointed that out as well, where the stickiness that I was responsible for was that hesitation, was that waiting for permission instead of just stepping forward and being who I am and letting whoever, whatever others' reactions are, just be what they are. And so here I am really dropping directly into this in this ceremony, and the medicine's moving fast. I'm scared, actually. And At one point I remember just naming, like, I'm not going to match other people's experience. And I realized that part of what the medicine is showing me is just like I've been discovering with spider medicine in the hierarchy, there was still a little small place where I put it on a pedestal, where I believed that it was more powerful, where I thought that it was stronger or wiser. And, it has its own intelligence, but it was showing me that what I was actually afraid of was my own power. It was showing me the flip sides of these webs, of the single web once again. And so once I realized that, I let out a huge roar and I tore open the container so that the sacred could come in. And I called it in the way that my body is made to do. And it felt really good. And it was really impactful too. That's not the reason that I did it. The reason that I did it is because I couldn't not. But it happened to feel really good too. And so I had found myself, maybe not at the end of this spider medicine, but completing a cycle with it. I can feel myself beginning an entirely new cycle now. And where I sat at the end was just intense gratitude. I was reflecting on all of the people who had contacted me the day of that ceremony, not knowing at all what I was getting myself into. Um, Reflecting on people that contacted me from all three of those trips randomly out of the blue that showed up for me, even though they might not have been conscious, showed up for me as I was truly stepping into my power. One of the people that showed up shared with me a little bit of what they channeled about spider medicine. So I want to read you a couple of pieces. And this is from Wild Messengers Alchemical Tarot Deck by Lola Pickett. So let me read what she has to say through channeling spider. By the way, the picture that she uses in the book is pretty much exactly what I saw in my journey when I touched into that little portal pocket of spider medicine. And she says, weave the story into the tapestry of time. Spider creates a silken web spanning vacant air, a place that draws in nourishment from what was once emptiness. So too can you create something from nothing. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. The past is both empty. It no longer holds the denseness of the material realm. Lessons, mistakes, yearnings, traumas, and celebrations abound within, and stories of old. You hold the power to not only to shape your worldview, but also to become the blood and bones of your future descendants and the soil from which life continuously reblooms. In the great web of life, you create what you will, and you will return to the earth and continue your body's journey as others walk through this life carrying your DNA and perhaps even your stories onward. And this feels very true for how I experience how my gifts come through and what I feel like my body is here to do. She goes on a little more to say, Spider makes 7 different types of thread depending on what I need to support myself in that moment. So too, do you have the inner resources to manifest support systems whenever they're needed? You're already a master thanks to the lessons you learned in life's laboratory. Trust what you've learned and begin to share it with others. You'll need each other in the times to come, and the tales you spin will help define your role in your community. What is your medicine, dear one? Share your past and co-create the future you desire. Only by letting yourself out do you draw others in. And so here we are at the end of the first round of spider medicine. Here we are landed in power, landed in magnetism, landed in authenticity, and really stretching out to embody the fullness of what we are. Thanks for joining me today. See you next time. Welcome to today's Q&A episode, where we explore questions about spiritual paths, intuitive gifts, growing a spiritual business, and shamanism. Do you have a question for us? Send us a DM at Holton Healing Arts. This question is from Josiah from our private Leading with Spirit Facebook group, which you are welcome to join. And the question is, how can I be sure that I'm connecting to a true state of a shamanic consciousness? And not to sound wooey, but the answer to that is with a question. And the question for you to ask yourself is, how can I be sure? It's not that you ask that question so that you can get the answer, as in the information, as in like how to answer that question verbally or in written form. You ask that question so life can show you what it is like to be connected to a true state of shamanic consciousness. I will add that I understand the question, but I also don't like the question. So the idea, like the connotation that's here in the question, is kind of similar to what I was talking about on the podcast today. And that's like when and Josiah, you probably don't mean it like this at all. I'm just going to share this because I see this happen a lot. And so I want to speak to it. So when we start using those words like true, especially around shamanism, you've probably seen it like true shaman, real shaman. This is part of the separation. This is part of the hierarchy. This is part of the old programming. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't be proud of what you do. It doesn't mean that you can't hold your power or you see yourself even or someone else as being more developed. But when we start to try to define something that is not definable and put it into a box so that we can measure ourselves against it, this is the old programming. This is the old paradigm. This is not part of shamanic consciousness, right? So the best way that you can do it is by asking that question and letting life show you what it's like. And another way that you can access this is be around shamans. Put yourself in situations around other shamans and medicine people, because there's a huge spectrum within that. And so you're going to start to get a sense of what that feels like. And the more you're around other people that carry it themselves, the more clearer you're going to be able to see and feel it. The easier it's going to be for you to tell when someone is saying they are, but they're not truly connected. They don't have the authentic connection. And also, the easier it's going to be for you to access your own true shaman within. This is a generalization, but I was just sharing with one of the groups that I host. We were talking about authenticity and bringing yourself forward. And again, the statement I'm not going to say is like the most true or the only truth. There's a lot to becoming a shaman beyond this, but it was a fun thing to play with. And what we came up with was the act of finding your authentic self is what the healing journey is. Our inner healing journey is all about connecting to our true authenticity, and bringing that authentic self forward is very much a part of what becoming a shaman is like as well. So I'll leave it with that. Thank you for the question. If you have a question, make sure you join our Leading with Spirit Facebook group. We receive questions from there regularly and post them in our queue so that we can make sure that we answer them here on the podcast. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget, if you haven't already, please take our Inner Mastery Archetypes Assessment. This is a super amazing tool that's going to help you really quickly understand what your inner mastery archetype is. And along with that, you're going to get tons of insight on who you are, what your purpose is, what your core patterns and blocks are, and also what your core gifts are. It's an incredible tool that we've created here at Holton Healing Arts. And what I love about it the most is it's going to give you context on your spiritual journey. There has been tons of information about energy tools and about manifesting, and I love the topic of spiritual gifts, and all of this really beautiful consciousness expanding work is really fun and valuable. And also, without context of who you are and where you are in your path, what you're even doing here, you can only get so far with this consciousness expanding tools. So take a look at the Inner Mastery Archetype assessment. I'll have the link in my bio for you in the show notes here. It's just a really quick quiz. And not only are you going to get instant insight into your core blocks and gifts, you're also going to get a free PDF that gives you deep insight into some of that patterning, more information on your gifts, magical tools you can use to break through your blocks, and energy reading activities you can also use to help call in the life that you want and start using your intuition and manifesting in a way that feels good and is right for your path. So be sure to check that out. Find me at Leading with Spirit Facebook group and let me know what you got. I'd love to hear what your archetype is and how much it resonated with you. Thanks for joining me today. I'll see you next time. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Leading with Spirit. If you did, please share the link for this episode with your biggest takeaway, tagging me at Holton Healing Arts. It would also support me if you subscribed and left a rating and review of the show so we can support more people living their highest purpose. Until next time, journey on.